Today, I'm going to recap a Korean thriller romance movie released in 2014 called Scarlet Innocence. A university professor abandons a small-town girl after a lusty affair. How far is she willing to go for revenge? Let's find out together. The story starts in the spring when Professor Hak-koo arrives in a small town. He is a literature professor and a writer who came to the small town to teach some elders to write a novel. He meets a girl who looks at him inquisitively as if she has never seen a man in a suit before. Her name is Dok-e, a kind and innocent small-town girl. She lives with her mute mother and takes care of her really well. Their second encounter happens in an amusement park where Deok-e worked. Deok-e wonders why Hak-koo comes to the amusement park wearing a full suit. He then tells her that he teaches literature classes in an education center near the park. Deok-e laughs as no one ever wears a suit in there anyway. So he wears a casual outfit to the class on the next day. Deok-e becomes interested and joins the class too. After class, the elders ask him to drink with them and Deok-e. The elders are getting along with Deok-e quite well. Recently, Deok-e's mother tried to get her a man so she could be married soon. They ask her about her blind date, but she refuses to answer. They walk together until he stops by at some rice cake place to drink more liquor alone. Little does he know, Deok-e steals a glance to look at him. She adores the way he drinks, or maybe just adores everything he does. When he gets home, Hak-koo calls his friend regarding the situation back in Seoul. It turns out that Hak-koo got falsely accused of sexual harassment by his student at his university. His friend is trying to help him by collecting evidence that he's innocent. Things are not going well there, so his friend advises him to find a hobby in the town to spend some time instead of feeling depressed. That night, Deok-e dreams about her and Hak-koo spending their lovely time together in the park. It's obvious that Deok-e has a liking for him. In the afternoon, they actually meet in the park. They become closer as they drink together. Hak-koo tells her the reason why he comes to the small town. She suggests he stay low until things calm down. But things are already too complicated back there for it to solve by itself. Either way, he appreciates her for listening to his story and believing in him. His phone rings, it's his daughter calling. At that moment, she learns that Hak-koo is a man with a wife and a child. He was about to leave for Seoul, but he cancelled it because he still wanted to be with Deok-e. He takes her to his house, and she innocently kisses him on his lips, making a laugh slip through his mouth due to her cutesy. They both sneak into the park at night, riding a Ferris wheel as both of them try to enjoy their time together. They end up having a spicy time there, if you know what I mean, without realizing that the park guard sees what they are doing. The gossip goes everywhere, as the other elderly talk about them. It reminds them of their wild young days. But Deok-e's mother also hears about the gossip and becomes worried. Deok-e and Hak-koo become a couple. They go on a cute date and have some fun. They are strolling around the city when Hak-koo sees Deok-e admiring a pair of heels. He gets her the heels and gives them to her when they get home. He puts on the heels for her and starts rubbing her leg, and you know what next. The thought of him ruining her innocence is driving him wild. "I'll never ever let you go," she says as he keeps boinking her as if he doesn't have another life in Seoul. Hak-koo receives a call from his friend in the morning, saying that he is arriving soon to bring him some good news. His friend tells him that he already got proof of Hak-koo's innocence. The accusation of him doing sexual harassment is already cleared. Now that everything is all good, Hak-koo plans to go back to Seoul. Deok-e seems disappointed when Hak-koo tells her that he will leave for Seoul. But oh boy, his soul leaves his body when Deok-e tells him that she's pregnant. They go to obstetrics to abort the child. After the procedure is done, he leaves her but promises will come back soon. Hak-koo comes to his home as soon as he arrives in Seoul. He meets his depressed wife, who has been suspecting him of having some affair with some college girls. His wife keeps blaming herself for doubting him for no reason. It's hard for her to not trust her gut feeling despite her deep love for Hak-Kyu. In another place, Deok-Yi's getting scolded by her mom. Her mom found out about the abortion and is very disappointed by her act. After some time has passed, Deok-Yi comes to Seoul to meet Hak-Kyu, who has promised to visit her. She even demands him to come clean to his wife about their affair. Hak-Kyu seems hesitant. It will ruin his outstanding career and perfect life in Seoul. A few days later, Hak-Kyu comes by to visit Deok-Yi. She is too delighted by his presence, and she forgets that she's cooking a meal and leaves the stove on. But Hak-Kyu doesn't visit her to go back to her. Instead, he's breaking up with her and bribing her with some money. He wants her to not tell anyone about the affair and the abortion. But she still loves him and tries to convince him to take her away with him. The argument keeps up without them noticing that the stove that Deok-Yi left is burning down her house with her mute mother inside. She runs toward the burning house to save her mother. At the same time, Hak-Kyu's daughter calls him to tell him that her depressed mom is locking herself in her room. So he calls 911 and rushes to Seoul only to find out that his wife has hung herself inside her room. In the end, he loses his wife and breaks up with Deok-Yi, who lost her mother in the fire. 8 years pass by, and he has been living a hard and wild life to escape the guilt that keeps heaving his heart. His novel became a bestseller despite his unhealthy life. He gambles, drinks, and plays with women. One day, his eyesight seems blurry, so he comes to visit a doctor. The doctor says that it's his bad habit that forms a complication to his eyes, which makes his eyesight could be completely gone someday. The doctor tells him not to drink and smoke, but he keeps doing both as his career is slowly going downhill. The university kicks him out because they found out he's been illegally gambling and involved in a slush fund activity. His teenage daughter, Chong-Yi, also has been living a nightlife due to the lack of attention. Little does he know, someone has been watching his life for the past 8 years. His eyesight goes blurrier each day. He can't even recognize people by their faces. Deok-Yi, with a new appearance, not sure what her motive is, comes to visit his place as a new neighbor. Hak-Kyu can't tell if it's Deok-Yi, so he welcomes her as a stranger. She introduces herself as Sejong. Apparently, Sejong is very close to Chong-Yi as they often meet nearby. Chong-Yi tells Sejong all about her dad and how he feels about him, but Sejong tells her not to hate him because he's her father, after all. Without her knowing, Chong-Yi has fallen into Sejong's trap as she needs a way to get close to them. Sejong offers Hak-Kyu to help him write his books. She also introduces him to a great doctor who possibly can cure his eyes. The doctor tells him that he has a chance to get his eyesight back even though it's very small. He gives him some medication to prepare him for the surgery. They get closer as Sejong keeps helping him do his daily tasks and keep track of his medicine without him knowing that she actually is Deok-Yi. But Chong-Yi doesn't seem to enjoy the sight of the two of them getting closer. The doctor finally tells him that he's ready for surgery soon. Hak-Kyu asks the doctor about the surgery cost, but he insists on discussing that only with his guardian, which is Sejong. When he asks her, she tells him to not worry instead. Getting stressed by all of these things, Hak-Kyu asks Sejong to bring him to the gambling house to relieve his stress. After winning some small bets, he goes to the high roller table. Unfortunately, he lost all his money in one night. He tries to go all in and borrow money from an illegal banker with high interest. But he loses it all again in the end. The next day, Chong-Yi tells her that Sejong is an ideal mother figure, but she doesn't want her to marry his dad. Later that night, when Chong-Yi has already gone to bed, Sejong helps Hak-Kyu to shave his beard. Both of them can't help but relieve the sexual tension between them, and so they do. They do it without realizing that Chong-Yi is watching outside until she makes a sound and flees to her room. Hak-Kyu tells Sejong that everything will be okay since he plans to tell Chong-Yi that they are going to get married soon. What's her motive behind all of this? Is having him wholly her goal? Or is it something else? A few days later, the illegal banker visits his place to collect the money. But he doesn't have it. They threaten him by giving him pictures of Chong-yi. Chong-yi is frightened by it. She doesn't feel safe at home, so she goes to Sejong. Days go by, and the banker goes to his place every day. They tell him to sell his daughter to them. He refuses, but they force him to sign the document. They kidnap Chong-yi and give Hak-kyu some compensation money. It turns out that the illegal banker works with Sejong, or better known as Deok-yi, to plan all this. Deok-yi tells them where Chong-yi hides to kidnap her. Not only that, but Deok-yi also asks the eye doctor to help her to make Hak-kyu go blind faster so he can feel the utmost pain possible. She's an innocent girl turned into evil because of one's obsession and revenge. 6 months later, Chong-yi is still missing as she might have been sold off to some twisted old man. Deok-yi starts treating him badly. She puts trash into his food. One day, she tells him that she's actually the innocent girl from his past, Deok-yi. It's actually the revenge that's keeping her alive. Wanting Hak-kyu to feel as wrecked as she did. She even had sex with the eye doctor at Hak-kyu's house to make Hak-kyu feel worse. But on the other hand, Deok-yi also feels bad for him. She's just as broken seeing him like this. That's why she stays like he wants her to. They say that life is a box of surprises. Chong-yi appears when Deok-yi is walking around with Hak-kyu. Chong-yi knows everything now. She knows about the affair they had in the past, which is indirectly the cause of her mother's death. She also knows about Deok-yi's revenge plan. After getting a rich sugar daddy, Chong-yi survives and comes back to Korea. She even paid the debt to the banker. And now she wants to pay Deok-yi back, who has sold her, seduced her father, and indirectly brought misfortune to her family. With the help of his wealthy sugar daddy, she kidnaps the eye doctor and makes him pay. She also forces Deok-yi to feel his dad's blindness by transplanting her cornea to Hak-kyu. The movie ends with Deok-yi and Hak-kyu sitting by the river. I guess in the end, they still love each other deep in their heart. Don't be blinded by love, don't be obsessed with revenge. Hak-kyu could probably live happily ever after with his family as a successful writer if only he hadn't played fire with Deok-yi. But what would you do when you meet the right person at the wrong moment? Let us know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you next time.